This is the crazy old school interview chair right here. It's like the interview when you're smoking a cigarette.
At what age did you start rapping?
I think like around like 10 or 11 years old. Just, it was a brother lived across the street from me. His name was, he went by Walk Fresh. I'm not gonna say his whole government name and shit. But him and his people, they used to like freestyle and beatbox out in front of, I don't know, like on his porch and stuff. And I was always that kid that wanted to hang out with all the old heads, you know, trying to move too fast. And that's really why I picked it up.
What inspired you to start rapping?
I mean, besides just wanting to hang out with the older heads and do what I thought was cool at the time. I mean, I had already been writing, I used to write like short stories. I was a big fan of Langston Hughes since I was a kid, so I was writing like poetry and songs and all of that. Because originally my moms wouldn't let me listen to hip hop because there's too much curses in it and all that. So, you know, I grew up like listening to Motown, like Marvin Gaye. And my mother's an activist as well, so she always told me, you know, you gotta do stuff for your community and all that. So that's like what drove me to start writing.
And what continues to inspire you to write?
Just life. Everything about life, the good, the bad, trials, tribulations, and the triumphs. Everything about it makes me want to share my experience or other people's experiences. And you know, to me, like tonight, you know what I'm saying, people of all different backgrounds, all together building because of music. You know, we get to share an experience together, get to move together. And I don't know, there's nothing more that I love than rocking on that stage.
We're gonna say, if I need each other, say hop, come on, man.
What's the purpose of your music? What do you want the effect to be on people?
I want people to know that God exists in them. You know, like no matter what walk of life you come from, shit, if you don't believe in God, then just the energy in the universe and the science that created us, whatever it is, there's goodness in all of us. There's reasons for us to work together, build together, come together and make the world a better place for everybody.
What are you hoping to do, like with your career and with your projects over in Africa?
I hope that the project that we're doing with music is my weapon and it takes a village in Guinea-Bissau. I hope that leads to us being able to build more schools, more wells, and more medical facilities. Because right now, honestly, it's the best thing I've ever been a part of, besides the food and clothing drive that we do in Jersey City. You know, and the same thing with the food and clothing drive is we hope other people will want to do the same thing in their community. So, I mean, with my career, you know, I hope to be able to make music until the day I die. And I hope that with the music, you know, I'll be able to, if I got kids, put them through college or something like that, you know, be able to take care of my family. But if not, just to be able to make music is such a blessing, you know, because I go insane. You know, songs like Prayer of a Sinner, that's therapy for me.
Smoke too many Newports, plus attend too many court dates to cool off. Been with too many women in sin, committing too much adultery. Not to have a queen in a seat to hold close to me. Been a while since I listened to the Lord when he spoke to me. I seem to just live for the day, was born to decay, and don't do my best to pray 5 times a day.
So it's like, I can't afford, I ain't got no insurance. I can't afford to go to no shrink or no shit like that. Plus, unless the shrink gonna let me rap, ain't no point to it, you know what I'm saying? So that's what it is for me. I wish, it's funny, as a writer, I'm expected to have the words for it, but it's like there's something beyond the words that I can't really describe how much of a blessing it is for me to be able to make music and share music with people.
How do you feel about, or what type of message do you think that the new mainstream hip-hop music is sending out to the people?
I mean, it's easy to say mainstream as a whole, but there are artists that I guess can be considered mainstream. Like, where do we make the cutoff of what's mainstream and what's underground? You know, because I would think at this point, Mos Def would be considered a mainstream artist to an extent, or he's knocking at the door, you know what I'm saying? Or Pac was a mainstream artist, you know, and that I feel like, especially like you look at Pac's been going for a long time, and his music still touches people. People still feel what he had to say. You know, so you can't just knock him because he was on the label. You know, I think there's individual artists that make garbage mainstream, and there's garbage in the underground. You know, you have to deal with artist by artist. It's kind of like one of those Willie Lynch situations where they try to pit us against one another. Like the underground is supposed to hate the mainstream's supposed to hate the underground. But it's not like that. There's artists I like that's mainstream. There's artists I like that's underground, and there's artists in both that I think is ass. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, it's what the individual's trying to say. When we think about corporate music, though, when we talk about the corporations that run the music business, you can never expect your enemy to give you the best food. You know, like when we talk about like the Panthers, you know, the number one reason that COINTELPRO went after the Panthers was because they fed the kids with the food and breakfast program. So you know that your enemy wants to cut off your resources and keep you hungry and keep you starving, right? So we can't look for them to give us the best food, and music is food. That's food for thought, that's food for your soul. So you can't expect them to be like, all right, you know, listen to, you know, Immortal Technique, Dead Prayers, Hasan Salaam or something like that. And you're like, nah, you know, listen to something that calls women bitches and men niggas and kill yourselves. You know, that's what I expect from my enemy. I don't expect them to be like, we love you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
They wouldn't be enemies if they did.
What are some obstacles that you've had making revolutionary hip-hop music?
Well, I mean, I've had meetings with labels before. One of the first contests I entered in had got me a sit down with an A&R at a very famous record label, you know, and they basically said, you know, your name won't go over well in Middle America because you have a Muslim name. And they said that's not really sellable. And it was for my first album too, so they were like, you know, the song Hezbollah is no good for what we would try to market. Or the song Blaxploitation, it's a little too political, right? So there was no real interest because, you know, my name is my name. I'm not changing my name for nobody.
You are who you are.
I am who I am. And on top of that, there was also another situation where they were like, well, we like your voice, we like your flow, but we don't like the content of your music. It's too political or this, that, and the other, and that shit don't sell.
They're trying to
So there's
shape
like,
you. They're
yeah,
trying to shape you, make
and it's
them
like,
what they want of you.
exactly, and can't nobody tell me who I am but me. And there's people on all sides. I mean, you'll run into people in the underground that'll be like, you know, you're talking about God, or not even just God, but like I'll get people like I have songs talking about just partying. I enjoy partying. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a good time when I go. I started off as a DJ. You know what I'm saying? So they'll be like, well, that's not political. Nah, man, everything's political. You understand? Like we need to have a good time too. Nobody wakes up every goddamn minute of the day and has a face in a book. Or at least I hope not. You have to experience life in some way. You know what I'm saying? You got family, you got other things that go on in your life. And that's what I feel my music is. My music is supposed to be. That's why I call the album Life in Black and White. Because it's all aspects of life. You know what I'm saying? Life ain't just black and white. There's a whole lot of fucking gray area everywhere, you know, and that's what it's about.
History.
Yeah,
not
like
just history, it's about making history.
Thank you. It's about making history. See, I always forget the pound when I'm on the West Coast.
That's all good, man.
First time somebody ever did that shit to me, I hand blocked them. I was like, I thought he was trying to punch me in the chest or some shit. But now, like, that's real. I mean, but too many times people are, if you get caught up in the past, you're not going to be right here in the moment. There's things that are happening right now. Like, you can't just sit here and complain about the past because we got so many injustices that are going on right fucking now. If you stuck back then, who's going to deal with right now? You know, or who's gonna get the babies ready for the future? You know, we gotta work. You gotta work all three somehow. It's tough, but you gotta do it. You know.
How has rap and all this experience in your life affected you?
If it wasn't for hip hop, I would not be in Portland, most likely. You know, if it wasn't for hip hop, I never would have got to go to Europe.
Are you 100% independent?
I'm gonna have this next album coming out with Viper. They have distribution with Universal. So But ain't nobody telling me what the fuck to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, when the president of your label is Immortal Technique, it's pretty much like, yeah, I get to say whatever the fuck I want. And on all levels, like, as intelligent and as fucking ratchet as I want to be, he ain't gonna stop me from saying that shit. So that's a beautiful thing, man.
What message do you want to send out to the youth that are fans of yours?
Educate yourselves, experience the world to the fullest. Be yourself. Don't ever let nobody tell you who you are. Whatever it is that you want to do or be, you can do that shit. All it takes is a whole lot of hard work. Nothing comes easy in this world. So the more work you put into something, the more you gonna get out of it. You know, that's what I say to everybody, young and old, man.
Is there any special shout outs you want to give out?
I mean, I just want to send a special shout out to everybody, just to let everybody know that when you look in the mirror, God is looking back at you. So treat yourself as such. When you see your brothers and sisters, treat them as such. Like, we get so caught up in what we can't do or how the world is fucked up, but there's a whole lot of beauty here, and there's a whole lot more beauty that we can find and a whole lot more goodness that we can make as long as we stick. We gotta stick to our guns as hard as the people trying to exploit the world stick to theirs. So if you're trying to share and you're trying to be a good person, you gotta stick to yours just as hard as the people doing the opposite. So, you know, shout out to everybody. Definitely big ups to everybody back in Jersey right now. You know, big up to the rest of the Rebel Army, 5th Column, and, you know, the whole world. Peace and walk on water. Hasan Salaam. Yes.